Hello everyone, this is Dr. Schroeder with this week's video introduction to week number 3 of our course in healthcare research. And very good week of discussion so far. I am still in the process of going through and evaluating and reading some of the responses. A lot of the responses came in on Saturday and then recording this on Sunday evening. And so I'll be giving some more feedback, no doubt, and reviewing a few more of the responses that were due yesterday. But in general, the reviews that I've read or the discussions that I've read, I think that everybody pretty much got the idea. The discussions basically kind of broke down into two separate classes from the discussion question into two different classes of information. The first was talking about the importance of peer-reviewed information and a discussion about exactly what that is. And I think that everybody got a really good idea and has a good grasp at this point on peer-reviewed information and why it's important and exactly what peer-reviewed information is. What is a challenge? And we just want to address here as a little bit is finding peer review information. Finding good peer reviewed information is difficult because it's not the sort of thing that is at the top of anybody's list of information that's out there. A lot of peer reviewed information on the kind of things that we're looking at in nursing research are fairly arcane little topics. They're not the sort of things that are for everybody's eyes. And therefore, when you use one of the normal search engines like Google or Yahoo, you're going to not, in most cases anyway, you're not going to find the kind of information that you're really looking for. If you're really trying to search the databases for valid information on a given topic, and most of the things we're looking at for nursing research. Now, there's nothing wrong with Google. I love Google. I like Google better than Yahoo. I like Yahoo and Google both better than Bing. I use Wikipedia almost every day. I mean, I really like Wikipedia. But it's just important to realize that Wikipedia is not peer-reviewed information in almost every case. And the information that you get there is great for a thumbnail sketch, for an overview, for getting some information. Going to All Current Nursing website or nursingtheorist.org website, those are good to get a good overview, but they don't include real peer-reviewed information. You're just not going to find it in a Google search. Even using a tool like Google Scholar, which is great, Google Scholar will find you quite a few references. You're not usually going to be able to link to the resource itself. You're going to, at the most, get possibly an abbreviated abstract, and then usually a link that if you want to purchase an article or purchase a resource, a link for you to go in and actually be able to purchase and buy it. And in most cases, in almost every case, it's something that you can also find in either EBSCO or Cochrane or CINAHL or PubMed or one of the databases that we have. And in other words, the information that these websites want you to charge for are going to be, you're going to be able to find them for free in the school library. You just have to know how to search for them. Almost all the information that is in the peer-reviewed variety is going to be located in one of those databases, and it's not necessarily going to be found in any of the major search engines. Again, it's just understanding the limitations. It doesn't mean that you should never use Google. Like I said, I use it all the time, but just really for preliminary research. If I'm trying to really find all the articles on something having to do with nursing education, you have to really go to the sources, and you have to go to those primary sources. And the only way to find those primary sources is to go to books. And like back here, I have a lot of books that I use. Most of these books are fairly current. I buy a lot of books through Alibris and through various used sources so I can get the really good, firsthand, primary source information. And I use EBSCO a lot. EBSCO includes most of the social work and nursing databases, which for the sort of things that I'm most interested in anyway, and those things having to deal with education, usually I can find it in EBSCO. But you have to know how to do a good Boolean search. That takes time and it takes patience. It takes patience mostly, and a little bit of know-how and a little bit of finesse in knowing how to do your search for keywords. For example, if you go to Google and if you type, Chinese diet, you're probably going to get websites. It's going to say, aha, you're trying to lose weight with the latest Chinese diet, or you're trying to find the best Chinese restaurant close to where you live. And it knows where you live because it captures that information. And so that's what's going to show up in the website. And maybe what you're really looking for, what are the differences between Chinese diets and Mandarin diets in a nursing sense. you have to know how to search for those terms and how to really get those search terms down. That's why it's important to do. There's a lot of good YouTube videos out there. If you do search for Boolean search YouTube or PubMed YouTube, you'll probably find some good videos out there. Now, I personally haven't posted any, but there's some fine researchers out there and some good, usually school librarians, that have posted information. They help you learn how to do a good search. It's not rocket science, but you have to know how to combine and how to use limiters and excluding terms and inclusion terms in order to be able to find the information that you're really looking for. If you try to use the same mindset that you use in a Google search, you'll be forever frustrated and never find anything, or find so much that you won't know how to sift through it. So that was the wanted to just give that feedback on that topic. The other topic was on the research question, and I was been pretty impressed. I think with most of you, you got the idea that the research question and the formulation of the research question is important. A research question is important because that's where research starts. That is when you are, for example, if you're building a wall, if you've ever either tried to lay bricks. Not something I'd recommend anybody to do, but if you ever tried it, you have to start with that first row of bricks just right. If not, you get a little bit out of line, and then as the thing builds, it gets more and more out of line. Same thing with the research question. You have to have a clearly written research question that clearly fits a particular methodology. If you're looking for a cause and effect, if you're looking for a correlation, if you're looking to see how nurses' attitudes are affected by a certain phenomenon, or how a nurse preceptorship program affects patient satisfaction. Those are quantitative studies, even though on the surface they kind of sound like they're qualitative because you're researching this rather subjective material, but they're actually quantitative. Anytime you're looking for that cause effect. A qualitative study is usually written along what are the values, attitudes, beliefs of, or what are the perceptions of. They're much more open-ended, and they're not trying to come up with a specific outcome to see is something good or bad, or positive or negative, or is there a particular outcome. It's just, what is it about? What do we know about? What can we learn about? What are the perceptions of nurses in a new grad residency program? What are the attitudes of patients towards physicians who are, younger than a certain age, or older than a certain age, or what have you? Those are all qualitative kind of questions. A mixed methodology, you have to be careful with mixed methodology, because actually, mixed methodology sounds like almost everything would fit mixed. And there's a certain amount of truth to that, but the research question then needs to address both the qualitative and the quantitative portion. So you can't just say that, well, I'm going to use both qualitative and quantitative data and then sort it out at the end. You have to know at the beginning, what are you looking for? What kind of information? That's really important. So I'm going to be finishing up the, some of the feedback still, so be looking for my feedback. But overall, I think that everybody's got a pretty good handle, and overall, as a class, excellent discussions. This week's discussion, again, very straightforward. We're going to be looking at the same two articles that you've been looking at and parsing them out a little bit more, and specifically focusing on how well do the nurses, or excuse me, the researchers that are doing these studies, how well they describe the significance to nursing. Important concept here is, remember, just because we're trying to show significance doesn't mean that it has to be earth-shattering. So, a researcher doesn't necessarily have to, prove anything big with a study. Really, the issue with significance is, how is the information going to help nurses understand the phenomenon of what we as nurses do, and how is this going to help researchers in the future? That's really what we're looking at for significance. Learning how to critique an article is important. This is where we really start to talk about the critique process, and you're going to be doing critique analysis later in the class. But for this week, just the discussion question. Remember, you've got your midterm exam coming up, so look at the study guide for that. That's going to be next week. I'll be posting or talking about the dates for that. But overall, excellent discussions. I appreciate being in class with you. I think the class is going well. As you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, especially if you have any questions about the content. And I'll be posting another video introduction next week, and I anticipate that the grading for this week will probably be done sometime by midweek. I'm thinking probably by Wednesday, although it may be a little bit later in the week depending on my schedule. Hope all is well, and we'll look forward to seeing you in class.